So sticking with the high school offensive lineman here, big pickup for Illinois for the 2026 class as the top recruit in the state of Nebraska commits to the Illini, and that's Landon Von Seggern. Interior offensive lineman, looks really athletic. Bret Bielema, you saw him stirring it up with Beamer in the bowl game. You see that smile on his face in the picture here. He's probably going to send this on a postcard to Matt Rule and Nebraska. So they're going to Nebraska, get the top player in the state. Not sure if he was a priority for the Cornhuskers at this point, but it's still a big deal when you go into someone else's state and get the top-rated player. And Bret Bielema, when it comes to offensive linemen, we're going to take his word for it.
Yep, 6 senior offensive linemen on that 25 roster, which is great for that year's team. This year's team for Illinois is going to be a hot sleeper in the Big Ten, but you need to constantly be reloading. And if you're an offensive line-focused program, you always got to be bringing in talent. Von Seggern, I really like what I see on film. Not the tallest guy in the world. Of course, he's playing left tackle at the high school level, which is not what he's going to be playing at the college level, most likely because of his height at 6'3", 280. But he is extremely athletic. And you watch his huddle, everything is in space. Everything is out there, moving around, hitting smaller targets. And he's very fluid, very athletic. You see him here getting to the second level, just plowing that linebacker. And he does it time and time again when you watch his highlight reel. Again, the finish is there, but this is not like a phone booth brawler. This is an athletic dude. They're projecting him as guard. I could also see center with him just because of the athleticism. You see him at left tackle again. I don't think this is where he's going to live, but look how far out he gets. And he looks under control. He's able to change directions. Boom. Deliver the hit. One thing about these offensive linemen in high school, yes, they're bigger. There you see, look at that.
Oof.
And then he gets out there and gets in front. With these offensive linemen that are bigger, something that is actually harder to do is hit the small targets sometimes when they're in
like
space.
that right there.
Right. But he does that. And I think it shows you his fluidity and coordination because he's not just like leaning into these guys or getting in the way. He's squaring his shoulders and delivering a jolt, which tells you that he has the coordination and balance to be out there and stop and aim and then fire. Boom, you see it again. I mean, that's a direct shot to a much smaller player. So it's not about, he's going against a smaller player, but those guys are hard to locate more so than the power aspect. So you see him at left tackle. Maybe he's a guy that can fill in there. I think the length will be an issue at that position. But in high school, your best athlete is usually playing left tackle anyway. So you're encouraged that he plays out there. Millard South High School, Omaha, Nebraska, state champion. And we talked about this a little bit, Pete. Unusual to me that the number 1 rated player in Nebraska, and this is on 3's ranking. I think 247 has him a little lower, but still a top 5 player in Nebraska. Why is Nebraska not in the mix here? You see Kansas, you see Iowa, which is an offensive line factory. You see Kansas State, of course, Illinois, but you don't see Nebraska.
Is that a competition thing potentially? I'm not familiar enough, unfortunately, with the high school football in his division there.
State champion team. Yeah. But look, Nebraska, to their credit, they landed the top 5 players or four of the top 5 players in Nebraska last year. Chase Lofton went to FSU, the tight end, but that's pretty good. So it's not like they're ignoring the state. This is an interesting one to watch. If I'm Nebraska, I'm saying, what are we missing here? When an offensive line coach like Bret Bielema makes this guy a priority, that offensive line coach who led the recruitment, Bart Miller, Omaha native. So that was the tie. And you hear the quotes from Von Seggern. He's saying, with Coach Miller, the O-line's been electric, not usually what you hear associated with offensive line play, electricity. But he said, especially when they played South Carolina, they shut down the freshman defensive end, Dylan Stewart. So clearly, Bielema is making an impression with the offensive line play, and he's going to be on the hunt for offensive linemen, losing that many seniors. So good start for the Illini, and an interesting battle shaping up in the Big Ten for recruits in the Plains region, because Illinois doesn't have to just stick to Illinois. They can go out there in the Plains and go toe-to-toe with some of these teams and land very, very productive players.
Good momentum for them too, man. Finish the season the way they did. 10 wins. Luke Altmaier coming back at quarterback. And that's just in general, like, that program seems to fit Bret Bielema very well. He went and he did the SEC thing. I see him being there, unless an unforeseen offer comes, which could always happen. But I see him being a mainstay there for a while.
Yeah, it's a good fit. And an offensive line based program makes a lot of sense. I use this quote for Jim Harbaugh. He said, offensive line is the only position that doesn't rely on any other position on the offense, but everybody relies on it, meaning a quarterback needs line play. He needs receivers. He needs running back. The running back needs holes to run through. The wide receivers need someone to throw to or to throw to them. Offensive line is going to do their job regardless of who's around. And then once they do their job, they make everybody else's life easier. So if you're building a program, it makes sense to start with offensive line because they are not dependent on everybody else. They can make everybody else better. You see that in Detroit. That's an offensive line-driven offense, now one of the most explosive offenses in the National Football League. Philadelphia Eagles, same thing. So it makes a lot of sense to start your program inside out with the offensive line because it's going to allow guys like Luke Altmaier to have success. Illinois had tremendous wide receivers, both probably on their way to the NFL, and Brian and Franklin. The offensive line made that more possible. So on brand for the Illini to get an offensive lineman early, a priority offensive lineman. I think given what they're losing in 25, this is going to be a theme of the class.